Hello friends, this is Adam with Movie Guy 365, and today I'm going to review the 4K Ultra HD Steelbook edition of Rocky IV. Rocky IV is here on 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray, released by Warner Brothers. It can be found as part of the Rocky collection available at your local and online retailers, or as an individual Best Buy exclusive steelbook. Now, I am a lifelong Rocky IV fan. I also feel that it has one of the best movie soundtracks of the 80s by far. Now, Drago as an antagonist, at least in regards to the series, is probably one of the most intimidating. Yeah, he doesn't have the greatest personality, but his sheer amount of power is definitely a threat. Now, when it comes to the Rocky vs. Drago cut, it's okay. I have some mixed feelings about it, and I honestly prefer the theatrical by far. I feel it's one of those situations where it's robbing Peter to pay Paul. I mean, they took away a lot of great scenes, but what they added is some good stuff. So really, at the end of the day, theatrical is going to be the way for me going forward. In the Drago cut, the film feels like it just starts abruptly. Once you get past the 6-minute or so Rocky III recap, which I felt was a little long, and honestly, it just struck me as padding the movie length time. But yeah, one of the things that really bothered me about the new version was the interactions between Rocky and Apollo leading up to Drago's fight. A lot of valuable dialogue was cut, and it kind of hurt the relationship between those two characters. I appreciated a lot of the stuff they did add, but what they took away, once again, I don't feel it was worth it. So maybe one day, I like to think, I don't know, there's a perfect cut that exists out there where you get the new footage or alternate takes, but you keep a lot of what was existing in the theatrical. Well, you could lose the robot. I don't think anybody would really shed a tear over that, but yeah, I think for me going forward, I would go for the theatrical version. All right, we're going to talk about the picture quality and the audio in just a moment, but first, let's do a quick unboxing of the Steelbook. Okay, we have the Best Buy exclusive 4K Steelbook edition of Rocky IV. Out of all the Steelbook art for this set, I think this is my favorite. I really like it. I think it's pretty cool. And at the back, this one, an interior, some interior artwork. So yeah, I think this one's a winner. Now let's talk about the picture quality and the audio. The Rocky IV theatrical cut has a 1:5:1 aspect ratio. Rocky vs. Drago, the aspect ratio is 2:3:5:1. Both have native 4K resolution and support both HDR10 and Dolby Vision. And as always, I will be discussing the Dolby Vision encode. Now for this review, I will go over both cuts of Rocky IV separately and will grade them as such. If you happen to watch both cuts of the film, you'll notice the grain to be noticeably heavier in the theatrical. It's filmic, it never becomes obtrusive, which should be pleasing to longtime fans. Now the picture in either version is presented relatively clean with only minor instances of white specks. Otherwise, it's issue-free, well, almost. On the theatrical edition, at the 10-minute 17-second mark, when Rocky is washing his car, the framing switches to 1:7:8:1 for several seconds before readjusting back to the 1:8:5. Most casual viewers would be hard-pressed to notice, my wife certainly didn't, but those with the trained eyes certainly will. Now, to start things off with Rocky IV, the theatrical version, I suspect much like Rocky II and III, the reported remastering doesn't ultimately improve the overall image to a degree that it did for Rocky I, but I do think that it does make for a fine-looking picture. The film is firmly set in the 80s, and the Dolby Vision grading reinforces this successfully. The palette looks pretty good, reds, blues, and greens shine through, giving off a more vivid appearance. Whites appear stable throughout with no blooming. The snowy landscape in Russia is a prime example. Black levels are pretty solid and well rendered. Night scenes or the darker interiors where both fighters are training look great. Textures show nice depth, especially close-ups. All the sweat and bloody cuts are on full display, with details receiving an appreciable boost. Now, for Rocky vs. Drago, you can immediately tell from the get-go that this is a whole new presentation of the film. Even if the 2:3:5:1 aspect ratio didn't give it away, the quality of the image itself will. Stallone pretty much rebuilt this particular cut from the ground up, with a more cool color timing to the palette, some moderate use or form of processing or DNR. Grain hasn't been completely scrubbed away though. Believe me, my spidey sense was on during the entire viewing. The enhancement to detail does take a small hit though. As I mentioned, the palette skews a little bit towards the cooler side when you compare it to the theatrical version. As for Dolby Vision, wow, do those colors pop, dare I say even more than the theatrical. Primaries look absolutely striking, establishing shots, Apollo and Drago's red, white, and blue fight venue, and the other 80s heavy aesthetic scenes are visually fantastic. Just as in the theatrical cut, whites are well done and not overblown. Shadows are pleasing with no unnatural elevation or crush. So in regards to the two cuts of the film, I think both are fine options with whatever version you go with. Clearly more work and attention was given to the Drago cut, and it shows. In the opening moments of the new cut, they show about 6 minutes of Rocky III, which was remarkably better looking in this footage than the whole of the 4K disc of that film itself. I think ultimately, what I would have preferred is that the previous sequels be given some of the love the Drago cut received, well, in some middle ground area. Don't alter the framing, make minimal if any changes to the color space, clean up the picture, keep the grain, then I think you would have had a more positive reaction to not only Rocky IV, but the previous films as well. Both Rocky IV and Rocky vs. Drago support a DTS 5.1 audio mix, but they're definitely not going to be cut and paste versions of the track. There are certain differences you're going to absolutely notice, especially when it comes to the Drago cut. Reportedly, an Atmos upgraded audio does exist for the Drago version, which unfortunately was not included here. Those that own Rocky IV on Blu-ray pretty much know what to expect, so I won't go too much into detail here, but I will say it's still a very enjoyable track. Now, as for Rocky vs. Drago, this definitely, forgive the pun, is quite a punchy difference. The low end is noticeably more robust in this version. When Drago lands the final blow on Apollo, you can feel it in your seat. Surround activity is more sporadic than consistent. The crowds during fight scenes and musical score beats are the primary residents back there. Action up front is presented very well, it's clean and energetic. The film soundtrack offers plenty of oomph and dialogue sounds excellent. For the picture quality, I'm going to give the theatrical edition of Rocky IV an A- and the Rocky vs. Drago cut a B+. Rocky IV's picture, both versions offer different but respectable enhancements. Dolby Vision serves both versions very well, and while grain shows more prominence on the theatrical edition, on the Drago cut, it's a little bit more refined. Whatever version you choose should be pleasing to fans of the film. For the audio mix, I'm going to score the theatrical cut a B+, and for the Rocky vs. Drago cut, I will give that one a solid A. It's really a shame we didn't get the Atmos upgraded audio, but either DTS 5.1 will really have a good listening experience. Obviously, the Rocky vs. Drago cut is a little bit more heft to the audio, and it offers a stronger mix. Honestly, I think a lot of people will be very surprised with what they hear. So that is my review of Rocky IV on 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray. If you're interested in picking up a copy for yourself, I will leave an Amazon link for the Rocky collection in the comments section, and I will also leave a link for the Best Buy exclusive Steelbook also down below. And I want to hear from you. Which version of Rocky IV do you prefer for yourself? Let's hear about it in the comments. In the meantime, please like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. So until next time, this is Adam with Movie Guy 365. I will see you at the movies.